So today we're talking about a really important topic, and that is, what does your garden look like from the inside of your house? So what is that view out your window? So there's a lot of things that we can do to make sure that when you're inside your house, you feel like you're in like a park-like setting and that you have privacy. And all of those things are really important for, I think, our mental health, to like make us feel more calm and like happier about where we live. So in this case, we are in my kitchen and looking out like where I do dishes. So this is our kitchen sink area, and our kitchen, and next to it is like we have French doors to a screened-in patio. So that whole area, I would say, is where we spend most of our time. So we have like a kitchen table, and then you can sit out on the patio. So this area was really important for me to just kind of bring in like things that made us feel like more at home and feel more comfortable. So I really wanted to have bird feeders here. So you can see I have 2 bird feeders, which are kind of framed in this window. The window's not much bigger than what I'm showing you. So these bird feeders are at the bottom of the window, and then also we have a suet feeder in the middle. And then out at the street, we have like 2 flowering cherry trees. So they give us some privacy, but it gives a nice backdrop to the kitchen. But yet these trees are on the smaller side, so they're not like actual cherry trees. They're flowering cherry trees. So it screens the road a little bit, and it screens our neighbors a little bit, but yet we can still see too. So it's kind of like a nice mixture of that. And then when these are done flowering, they go like a nice bright green. And then, you just feel like you're in like a room of green. It's so pretty. But as far as like putting these bird feeders in, like when I'm in my kitchen and then I go outside is a much lower elevation. So I had to shop around and kind of find the tallest iron hangers that I could find. And it wasn't quite tall enough. So I had to bring in a lot of mulch and almost make like a mound in front of my kitchen window. And then I put the hangers in that. And then they were the correct height so that I could hang these bird feeders. And I did also try to keep them away from anything else so that squirrels weren't like getting direct access to these bird feeders. So the squirrels do bug them sometimes, especially if they're like taking a running leap at my bird feeders. But I had thought too about like hanging them from my like eaves. But I thought if I can do it with the regular hangers, I'm going to do that. So I was able to make that work out. But I am, always trying to keep the squirrels at bay, I guess. So one thing I am planning to do is add some grandiflora roses that are really pale pink in here. And I'm hoping that that will also keep the squirrels away because of like the thorns on the roses. And then the birds will love that too. So that's something that I think I will be adding to this area. So off of our patio, which I'll show you in a minute, but off of our patio, we have an actual cherry tree that is like, has, I would say they're somewhat sour cherries, but it does grow cherries. So that's kind of fun because that's like planted right at the corner of our screened-in patio. And then basically, I don't try to gather the cherries. It's a fight between the squirrels and the birds to get the cherries. And then I also have bird feeders hanging in that tree as well. So basically we have a lot of nature going on like in our kitchen and in our patio area. So that is really nice. It's really calming, and that's kind of what I was hoping for. It's just like a nice nature-filled area where it makes you feel good to be there. So just consider, like, if you like hummingbirds or something, like what do you want to be seeing outside of your window? So I do think like your kitchen window is a really important one, but whatever elements you want to bring in, you can intentionally do that. So this is also where we can see the sunrise. So it rises like basically right in front of this window. So it's also nice that these flowering cherry trees are short enough that we can still see the sunrise. So if they were like big maples or something, it would totally block that out. So it is nice that these trees are shorter. So it is kind of nice to think about like the mature size of what you're planting and take into account like anything like that. Like, I want to make sure I see the sunrises and the sunsets. So I don't want to plant anything that kind of hinders that. So now next to here we have a huge maple that I think is probably like 150 years old. It is so huge, but luckily like that doesn't get in the way of anything. So, and you can see like traffic going by here, so we still have plenty of, you know, being able to see what's going on in the street, what's going on like across the way with our neighbors and things. But yet we still also have privacy, which is nice. So that's a nice reason to plant like some deciduous trees in the front so that you have almost like a see-through kind of wall of greenery. So now this is our dining room, and you can see the same flowering cherry trees out here. But it's nice because they really fill this window, and then when they lose their flowers and it's just like all green, then we basically just have like a whole sea of green inside our dining room. So this is really pretty as well. And again, this is out at the street, so there's nothing really between that and our dining room window that is close to the window. So it works out really well because you still have like a wall of green there, even though there's nothing. Everything planted outside this window outside is not tall enough to see. But that's definitely consideration. Like when you're planting things, like, is it going to be tall enough that you're going to see it from inside the house? And sometimes you will want that, and sometimes you don't want that. So one way you could bring in like more interest, like right in front of these windows, you could add window boxes, and then you could have flowers going directly in front of the window. So that would be something that you could do if you needed more. Or in our case, like if I wanted to block out that road view, I could like add window boxes and, you know, have plants that are a foot tall, and that way it would completely block that out. So you could measure the distance to the bottom of the window if you want something that's just kind of showing there, and plant like an arborvitae or a butterfly bush. You could also plant something tall like on the side of the window so you're only seeing parts of it out the window. Both those things I think would be really good solutions. So this is the patio view, and what I wanted to do here was just add like a grouping of evergreens. So this is my lantern garden, and I have a big blue spruce right in the middle. And this one started out like a scraggly little 1 foot tall one that I wasn't sure was going to make it. I moved it from somewhere else in my yard. But since it was here, I was able to kind of baby it. So I would like bring in compost scraps and make sure it kept watered and all of that. So it did turn out to be one of the healthier like blue spruces that I have. So I planted that in there, and then we have 2 knockout roses on the side, and then in the front there are I think 3 arborvitaes, which are more the green yellow color, and then I have another like pale pink knockout rose, and then by the lantern there's a lot of peonies and bee balm, and then also some penstemon in there as well. So now this is in my living room. When you walk in, you kind of see this angle, and there's a very busy street out like one house over. So I wanted to basically ground this corner. So what I did is put another grouping of evergreens like right on our property line on the side there. So they look close, but actually they're farther away. But I put a blue spruce, a Leland cypress, and a white pine. So that white pine is the one that I have to keep almost like shearing off to keep it a little bit shorter. And then at the actual corner of the house, I have an oak leaf hydrangea, and then also like a lime green hydrangea, which is like the big snowball type variety. And those 2 do really well there. And then I have like cut flowers all year. The only issue that I have is they bring in a lot of bees. So that's a consideration. So this is my side yard, and also this is in my living room where you like walk straight into the living room. So we planted a birch tree that was kind of centered in this window. And then beyond this is like my neighbor's driveway, and it's kind of elevated. So if we didn't have all this, you would basically just be looking at my neighbor's cars. So we have a birch tree here, and then we have a crabapple and a redbud, and then also blue spruce, Leland cypress, and then on the other side of this birch we have some lilac, and then also sedum autumn joy. So just being like deliberate about what you're planting that you can see right outside your window, maybe thinking about centering things, and then you can be changing it and adding or taking things away just so that it looks exactly the way you want it to look from inside your house. So really important concept in designing our landscaping and our gardens. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I would love to have you subscribe. So thank you so much.